Yo, what's up, guys?
Hey, what's up, everybody?
It's your boy Roshank Redemption.
And I am D3DBZ.
And we're here with a Naruto Gaiden, just in general, chapters 1 through 10 review today. And yeah, we're going to get started. So why don't you take the reins, Roshank? We didn't talk about this too much. We didn't plan this out, guys. Go ahead and take it off, or start it off.
Are you sure you want to give me this to start off? Okay, all right. All right, so I guess the first thing we should address is, for me, one of the most important things in any manga or anime is the characters. So why don't we go ahead and address the main character, or who I think is the main character in this series, and that is Sarada Uchiha. So what are your thoughts on Sarada as a character?
I think that Sarada was a meh character, in my opinion, because her and Chocho just spent the whole entire 10 chapters looking for her father. And Chocho, we're not even going to talk. I don't even want to talk about Chocho in this review because I could get off on a tangent. I don't want to talk about Chocho. I just felt like she was so useless. But anyways, we're talking about Sarada. And I think that, I think Toriyama, wow, I'm thinking too much about Dragon Ball. Kishimoto was trying too hard to, take advantage of the fact that she's a girl and she's kind of lost her way and she's looking for her parents. So I think that it was like commendable that she was searching for her parents and stuff like that. But it was honestly, when you're looking at Naruto, and since I mentioned it already, when you're looking at something like a Dragon Ball, you're looking more for action. So they spent so much time developing Sarada. So, I mean, we didn't get a lot of the action I was looking forward to. But, I mean, I guess I can't necessarily blame Sarada for that. I just was looking for more. I mean, she did have a badass moment at the end in Chapter 10, I believe, or at the end of Chapter 9, the last page of Chapter 9. So she did have a badass moment. But in general, I mean, I was just kind of meh on her because it was just a whole lot of emotional stuff. How did you feel about her?
No, I totally agree. I mean, for me, like, seeing stuff like Susanoo and Kyuubi and Jutsu like that is one of the staples of Naruto. So to not really have that, we did have a little bit, but not really that much. To, mostly be focused on character building for Sarada was not the best. I mean, I know people do like when Kishimoto develops his characters, and I am glad that Kishimoto did that, but I feel like he could have still interweaved some fighting into there, I guess. And also, I kind of found Sarada's character to be a little bit bland, because I think we talked about this in a previous review as well, but like, I felt like her journey was sort of like abrupt. And what I mean by this is when she found out that Sakura was potentially not her mom, and she talked to Naruto for like 20 seconds, and then she just did a 180 and just, completely turned the other way. And for me, that's not great character development, to just, have like a problem in, someone's life that, they have to deal with, which that part was good, but just have that solved immediately by, the power of friendship and the power of family was just kind of, I just don't know how to feel about that. I felt like I realized that this was a very short miniseries, and I realized it was only 10 chapters, but I feel like Kishimoto could have spent, like maybe a couple more pages fleshing that out. But then again, I am criticizing him for lack of action, so maybe that's an unfair criticism, but I definitely do agree with you on the whole lack of action thing. That is one thing that I think cannot be contested in this series.
Yeah, and in general, I mean, I think that he was like treading a very fine line because he was trying to develop Sarada, but he knew that he didn't have enough time to develop her, which is kind of the reason why he left all the other kids in the village and he only developed Sarada. Really, they were in like the first chapter, I believe. I don't think they're even in the second chapter, or they may have been in the second chapter, but that was just Boruto. I mean, we didn't even see Himawari in this freaking manga, and I'm just sitting there like, what happened? Because he spent so much time developing Sarada. And I think that's why she became so much of a letdown. Like I said, she did have a really cool episode there where she smashed all the Shins down. But I mean, the manga was too focused on her. And there wasn't enough going on. I mean, like, we barely even saw Naruto. And then Naruto, let's talk about Naruto now. Why does Naruto seem like he's such a pacifist now? Like, why does he seem so much more like, I don't want to fight anymore? I mean, that's a great way to be. I mean, don't get me wrong, but it's just like, once again, the trajectory of these characters is like kind of baffling my mind a little bit. I don't want to turn this into a rant because I want to make this positive. I really thought that the 10 chapters were great, but I mean, Naruto's my favorite character, and they're kind of doing to him, once again, like a Dragon Ball reference, they're doing to him what they did to Gohan, where the dude just becomes a pacifist. He doesn't want to fight anymore, and I can't deal with this happening to two of my favorite anime characters. How did you feel about Naruto?
Well, let me just first say it's interesting. I think they showed they had an interview with Kishimoto, and they went in his one of his rooms or his studio or something. And you would think there would be a ton of Naruto stuff maybe in there, but the place is covered with Dragon Ball stuff. It's just absolutely covered with Dragon Ball stuff. So that shows just how much the dude loves Dragon Ball. So for Naruto to sort of end up like Gohan there makes a lot of sense to me. I agree with you, actually. I agree with you that I didn't really feel like that I didn't really like that route that he took. And I totally agree with all the points he made, but I feel like it does make sense in a sense that he did that given Kishimoto's respect for Dragon Ball. But I do agree. There just wasn't enough Naruto action here. And yeah, the trajectory of the character was a little bit strange. We didn't really get to see him fight. I felt like he did sort of nail Sasuke, though. I mean, with just Sasuke's general personality, the fact that Sasuke doesn't come back to the village all that often and is just totally dedicated to to pursuing this greater than Kaguya villain that we've been talking about, and to to pursuing all these threats and trying to take them out is exactly like him. And I think Kishimoto nailed that. But with Naruto, I do agree with you there.
Yeah, so I think Sasuke was awesome. I think he did a great job on Sasuke, and especially at the end where he actually kind of made it come full circle, and we see Sasuke finally being a father, and we got some clarification on Sarada, and I guess it was, like they said, the umbilical cord. Karin was holding on to Sakura and Karin's umbilical cord, so that's why the DNA test said that it was a match. It wasn't anything that had to do with oh my goodness, there's too many S's. It didn't have anything to do with Karin. It was just all Sakura and Sarada's DNA there. So we did get clarification on that, and I was loving seeing Sasuke being a father. And then at the end, he gives the famous world-renowned Itachi forehead tap there. So I thought that was awesome, but it's just Naruto. I mean, we see Naruto at the end. He's like, yo, stop fighting us, and you guys can all come back to the village. I mean, how does that even make sense? There's a million of these guys with the exact same face, exact same name, running around the village. That doesn't even make sense to me. So I was just like, come on, Naruto. Seriously. I mean, I guess he was trying to make it to where they're not roaming the world and becoming threats and stuff like that, but still. And then on top of that, he puts them under Kabuto's charge. This doesn't make sense to me. I'm sitting there like, how is Kabuto in charge of the orphans? How is Kabuto even in the Leaf Village at this point? What happened in this time skip?
That was the strangest part of the chapter. The whole Kabuto thing, seeing Kabuto again, that was just strange. And back to your point about all the S's: Suigetsu, Sarada, Sakura, Sasuke, Shin. That's 5 fairly major characters. Some of them not so much.
That's why I'm getting these tongue twisters. It's just blowing my mind, all these S's. I can't even pronounce what's going on here.
Yeah, I guess Kishimoto's just trying to confuse us. Kishimoto's like the king of trolls.
Apparently.
But yeah, all that stuff with the Shins going to Kabuto's academy, that was definitely very strange. And I wasn't really sure what to make of that. I suppose it's more of a minor point in the series, but at the same time, that was just kind of out of nowhere. That was the last thing I was expecting. And it's really strange, like you were saying, that whole point about Naruto sort of becoming a pacifist, for them to be fighting these little Shins to the death, and then just a couple panels later, a couple pages later, everything's peaceful. Everything's just worked out and peaceful. So
well, yeah, they kind of got intimidated though, because they looked inside of him. They saw Kurama there. They were like, "Oh no, we're not messing with this guy." Yeah, and he was like, "You see what's inside of me? We're not gonna let loose on you guys if you guys come back to the village." And they were like, "Okay, all right, we'll come."
That's very true. Speaking of Shin, I want to quickly discuss Big Shin if we're done talking about all the stuff with Little Shin and Kabuto here. Yeah. We were talking about this a little bit before the review, but Kishimoto, what the hell? Seriously. I mean, I feel like D3 has less of a problem with Big Shin than I do, with of course the main villain of this series. But I had a huge problem with him. He was just not as epic as he was originally hyped up to be, I felt. And there were rumors of this greater than Kaguya villain, and obviously Big Shin is not is not that greater than Kaguya villain. And I guess we did sort of know this, but it still pisses me off for them to, hype that up, and then for Kishimoto to hype that up and then just not have it happen. And I guess I just didn't really like Big Shin as a villain. I didn't really like his backstory. I didn't really like just the way he went about things. And why don't you share your thoughts on that?
Well, the thing about Big Shin Roshank is that he had, I mean, if you take into context the fact that we went through 10 chapters, he was in about 7 of them. And he never did anything notable. If you take that into context, he was literally there for no reason. He did not have to be there. He didn't have to be in the series at all. It would have turned out perfectly fine because the manga series, its goal was to develop Sarada, which they did. He didn't have to be there. They didn't need a villain for that. So I think that's why.
They could have just had all the little Shins. They could have just had them, and that would have been fine.
Yeah, they could have did that. But then on top of that, they didn't even need them. They could have just spent the whole time in the village, and Sasuke could have came back. I think that's why I'm giving this Shin character and all those Shin clones that we saw, the freaking trillions of them, big, small, fat, giants, midgets, whatever, all types of deformed Shins. I'm just giving them a pass because I feel like I'm just kind of overlooking them because I feel like they weren't even necessary whatsoever, and then they played such a minuscule part, and then at the end we see the Shin clones turn on him, and like you pointed this out, we don't even know what happened to the dude. They didn't even point out what happened to him, so I'm just writing him off completely. I have already erased him from our minds. I'm just like, bro, who is Shin who? I don't know. I thought it was awesome how immediately after, well, actually what happened was in like the first 2 or 3 pages of chapter 10, they dealt with him and left him alone. That just showed you how important he was to the manga. They were able to write him out of the story entirely in the first few pages and not even tell us what happened, and nobody even cared. So, I mean, I'm just meh on him as a villain altogether. But we did see, I don't know if you guys saw it, but there are some leaked images of who the new villains are in the Boruto movie. So, I mean, how did you feel, Roshank, about the chapter as a whole? Because we're getting a little long here. How did you feel about the chapter as a whole? And what are you expecting for the chapter, like how are you expecting the chapter to relate to the movie? Because it's supposed to be like a transition into the movie. I feel like they're going to spend a lot of time developing Boruto in the movie because we didn't see him in the manga whatsoever. We saw him in the beginning, and then we saw him at the end where Sarada was like, hey, I want to be Hokage. And that's kind of something that they're talking about in the movie. So this was developed, I mean, the manga was just there to develop Sarada so they can spend time on Boruto. So how do you feel about the manga as a whole?
Well, first thing I'll say is we will try to remember to include a link to those photos that Diefrey was just talking about in the description. And if we don't,
Yes, sir.
then bug us and we'll put that, because those photos are pretty important. They introduce potentially the new villains for the series. But yeah, so for the manga as a whole, I just find it. I think a lot of people have been asking. One thing that I've seen a lot is people have been saying, "Oh, we want Kishimoto to include a female Uchiha character in Naruto," and we didn't get that in the main series. Like a strong female Uchiha who's like actually a prominent character. We didn't really get that in the main series, but I guess we did sort of get that here with Sarada. Now, as we were talking earlier, neither of us particularly loved Sarada, but I suppose it was nice to see that. It was nice to see another Uchiha character develop and all. So I guess it was nice for Kishimoto to give us that, but at the same time, I just do not understand why Boruto is going to be about Bolt, of course, unless the title is misleading for whatever reason. But Boruto is, I'm assuming, going to be pretty focused on Bolt. So why develop Sarada's character for the entire manga when you have a movie about Bolt after that? That is one thing that confuses me. But I suppose it was nice to see Sarada's journey here. And as you were just talking about, the fact that the main villain in this series was just not important, that is not okay. That is, for me, a big no-no, because I've talked about a ton of my manga reviews, but the most important thing for me in these series is characters. And, by characters, I don't just mean character development. I mean, seeing these characters, I guess, grow, and then also seeing their powers, too, which we didn't really get to see a lot. We didn't get to see a lot of action. And so to have, like, a bad villain, for me, is just not that great. Those I guess are my thoughts for the manga as a whole.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I feel like you touched on a few points there that I really agree with, man. I think that they, like I said initially, they didn't need to include him. It almost like detracted from the series for me because I have to go out of my way. As funny as it sounds, I have to go out of my way to like write him off in my head and act like that never happened because it was just so unnecessary. But I think what they did was that they want to spend so much time on Boruto. If I don't know if you've seen the trailers, but the trailers, they're like really portraying Naruto and Boruto's relationship, whereas the manga was really portraying Sarada and her parents' relationship. So I think that's what they're doing, and there also is going to be aspects of a rivalry with Naruto and Sarada in the movie. So I can understand why they kind of want to focus on him, but it would just make more sense to me then if they released another 10-page or 10-chapter manga focused around Boruto and some of the other characters in the Leaf Village and then made a movie. I don't know if they're going to do that, but that would be awesome, by the way. But that would just make so much more sense to me because not everybody's going to read the manga. Not everybody's going to know about Sarada's backstory. They probably will spend a second explaining what happened with that because Sasuke is in the village in the Boruto movie. So at the end of the chapter, we saw him come back, but we saw him leave again. So he must come back, or there must be some gap in between him leaving again where he spent time in the village because he has to take Boruto under his wing. He teaches Boruto the Chidori. That's spoiler, I guess, if you guys haven't seen the trailers. So yeah, I feel like, transitioning from the manga into the movie could have been smoother. There's still a few things they could do in between the time that the movie comes out and now. Like I said, they could release another manga. I mean, it's just 10 chapters, man. Maybe even 5 chapters just to give me some Himawari. Funny thing is, I'm not even like a huge Himawari fan. It just bugs the shit out of me that I haven't seen her. I mean, they didn't even show a glimpse of her. It's 10 chapters. They didn't even show a picture. That's just all that bugs me. So, I mean, I feel like it all could have been done a little bit smoother, but I mean, it doesn't detract from my hype from the movie.
I totally agree about Himawari. A kid who's, the child of like an Uzumaki and a Hyuga, that person's power would be really cool. So I feel like focusing, I guess Bolt is too. But still, like, focusing on her a little bit would have been cool. And yeah, another thing is, I guess, it is a bit unfair to say this to an extent, to criticize Kishimoto for mainly focusing on one character for this, that one character being Sarada, for this 10-chapter series. But I feel like he could potentially have, like you said, taken Big Shin out, had some sort of other conflict in there. Like, why not even just bring back Orochimaru as the villain? Why not just do that? I mean, True. People would love to see that. I mean, maybe some people don't, but it's better than Big Shin. But I digress. Why not develop some of the other characters a little bit more? Why focus so much on Sarada here? Because
Exactly.
I guess Sarada...
True. My bad, man. I'm cutting you off. They didn't even have to leave the village. If they didn't leave the village, there would have been no conflict. They could have developed all the characters and everything would have been awesome. But then again, people would be complaining about the lack of action. I think that's the only reason why there's a villain. Because people would complain about there being no action.
How about do like the Chunin exams again? That great for nostalgia, right? Back in the day.
That's the movie,
of course,
though.
Naruto.
That's the movie.
Oh, that is. Oh,
yeah.
Apparently, I don't know my stuff as much as I would like.
Yeah, they're gonna spend a little bit of time in the Chunin exams.
I guess I just feel like that would have been better set up for like a 10-chapter manga series, like doing something like that instead of just one movie. But anyways, regardless, I feel like Kishimoto could have done a better job developing more of the characters instead of just focusing on Sarada, and I feel like we agree on that for sure.
True, yeah, definitely. I mean, I think that's just the moral of it. I think that the 10 chapters were done really well. I mean, I appreciated seeing some of the characters that, like we talked about. It was awesome seeing Suigetsu. It was also awesome seeing Karen's new hairdo and everything like that at the end. I mean, it was only one clip, but it was awesome seeing her again. It was awesome, like, it just the whole nostalgia effect, and it was awesome seeing the first episode of Naruto flashback and stuff like that. But as far as the manga as a whole goes, they spent too much time, in my opinion, focusing on one character when they could have done this all differently. And Shin was such a big letdown that he was literally unnecessary in the grand scheme of things, unless in the movie he shows up in the movie in some way, shape, or form in the beginning, and he had played this whole master plot that we didn't see about, which I'm doubting. But unless he did something like that, and there's like some kind of recap of like the manga, then I mean, at this point, I'm saying he was useless to the series. So yeah, that's where I'm at with it. But Roshank, we have to do grades just as a whole. How did you feel grade wise?
Ooh, this is tough. You know, I'm going to be a little bit harsher and give the entire thing a 6 out of 10. Because for me, issues like, having a bad main villain and having, kind of a meh main character, they're just too big for me to overlook. So, I mean, everything else, I would actually go so far as to say that everything else was phenomenal. If you can somehow overlook the fact that there was too much focus on Sarada and that Big Shin wasn't really good, everything else was great. All that stuff was actually with Kishimoto trolling us about Sarada's mom was really good. He did a really good job with that. Seeing Orochimaru again was very good, creepy but very good. Seeing a ton of the characters we saw in the main series of Naruto again, that was really cool. So I'm gonna go with a 6 out of 10. How about you?
Well, me personally, I'm gonna be a little bit more generous. I agree with the points you said. I'm just naturally a pretty generous person. And my bad. It sounds like I keep putting you on the spot sometimes, but that's what this thing is about. I'm gonna give it a 7. Because I mean, I'm kind of piggybacking off some of the things you said. And me personally, like I said already, I mean, if I have to go out of my way to write off a villain that was supposed to be the main villain in the series, then that's not good. I mean, he shouldn't be that forgettable. That's the problem. Like you said, him being such a meh villain is just the problem. Like, I mean, if you set the Sarada stuff aside and don't focus on that, and you focus solely on the Shins, they didn't accomplish anything. Like I said, unless we find something out in the movie, they didn't accomplish anything. They were, in my opinion, just detrimental to the story. There's just no other way to put it. There was no point in having them there. They didn't help anybody figure anything out. There was just no benefit to having him as a villain in there. And I think that's the problem there. But I mean, the whole nostalgia effect, I think that was awesome. And that's why I'm kind of giving it a 7. Otherwise, I'd be right there at a 6. And I mean, I was awesome seeing QB Naruto the one time I saw him. But yeah.
All right, guys, well, that's pretty much going to do it for this review. Definitely really enjoyed not only reading this manga, but doing these reviews with D-Free. It's definitely been fun, man. But yeah, so I guess as scores for the overall manga, I ended up giving it a 6, and D-Free ended up giving it a 7. D-Free, you got anything else to say before we sign off here?
Yes, sir. Alrighty, guys. If you're new, please be sure to hit that rate, comment, and subscribe button. If you guys are my bad. If you guys are from my channel, be sure to check out Roshank. Dude's awesome. We've done a few of these reviews. You guys can probably go back and check them out. If I remember, I'll put them in the description. But anyways, that's all I've got. So deuces.
Yeah, and same goes for those of you who are watching this from my channel. D-Free's a pretty awesome YouTuber, and if you haven't checked me out yet, I guarantee you will not regret it. So that's going to do it for us, and we will see you in our next video.